Hello everyone and welcome to this episode, the Assertive One, of the Women Talking About Learning podcast. I'm Andrew Jacobs. Being assertive doesn't always come easy for some women, and being assertive can sometimes have very negative reactions from the people we work and engage with. With this in mind, we've 3 guests who wanted to share their thoughts and experiences with you. Our first guest is Linda Mutzlova. Linda is a seasoned professional in the tech industry and founder of LM Consulting. She provides a range of services from coaching to public speaking about career development for women in STEM. As a career coach, she helps women feel fulfilled, find their voice, and get the reward they deserve. Our second guest is Ainsley Szczesniak. Ainsley is the founder and executive director of Speak Out Sisterhood. They have a global network elevating youth to eradicate barriers to equality for women in STEM. As a first-year Honours Carolina Scholar at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, she's an aspiring physician in women's health and a proactive STEMinist, which I love the word by the way, dedicated to empowering young women to be agents of change. Our final guest is Beatrice Nalula Kabutakupwa. Beatrice is the CEO and founder of the Business Storytelling Centre, a leadership development firm training and coaching leaders to communicate through stories. As a professional storyteller who's worked as a journalist and documentary maker for a decade, she applies storytelling to engage, retain, and develop internal audiences. This is an awe-inspiring episode and 40 minutes that you are going to love. We recorded it in April of this year. This is Women Talking About Learning. This is Linda, Ainsley, and Beatrice talking about assertive.
Hey everybody, it's so great to meet y'all virtually. I'm Ainsley and I'm so glad to get to talk with you both today. How are y'all doing?
Hi Ainsley, hi.
Hi Ainsley. Go Beatrice.
Of course this was going to happen.
Yeah, it was bound to happen. Go Beatrice.
I'm doing great. Nice to, podcast meet you, I guess. Both of you.
Yeah, you too. And hello everyone, I'm Linda. Happy to be here with you today. And tell me what brought you here today.
I can go first. So I really love this topic of assertiveness because it's very tied into what I do personally, like with my work as a leader and social entrepreneur. I think that when it comes to young women, particularly, the skill of being able to advocate for yourself and assert your position and assert like your value in a situation is not well taught, and like we don't have many experiences to cultivate this skill. And so I'm so glad that we're getting this chance to talk about it more, because I think this is something that really does need to be talked about, how women cultivate that courage and that confidence to fight for what we want and what we need. So I'd just be curious, as a young woman, hearing your stories about how you've developed this skill yourself and what drew you to this topic too. So that's kind of what interests me about it.
So I can, just tell you that I'm so glad that there is someone among young women who talks about this. But, this is so important to talk about for women of all ages, because, also by the ways how we grew up, how we were raised, historically, basically, now it's history, 30 years ago. So we weren't raised that way either, right? And there's so many women also of higher age who needs this skill, who needs to learn this. And I'm saying skill because everybody can learn it. And that's the most important piece of it, right? It's art, it's learnable skill. So if we don't have it yet, it's never late to learn it. I don't know, what is your experience, Beatrice, with assertiveness?
Yeah, it's actually I like this question because it really makes me think about so many different aspects. So from one side, as Ainsley mentioned, is about the work that I do with. When I started the work that I do, I started with women of color entrepreneurs. And that's one of the things that I noticed. So it was about, okay, how do I make sure that I state what I want, how I want it, and in a clear way? And it's interesting because then I would notice that First of all, I could relate it to my own history as well, and to the way I was raised. As Linda mentioned, there is a lot to it, right? It's like the society and how women are supposed to speak and behave and how kind and gentle we are supposed to be, which also makes me think about another thing, which is about the fact that when we think about assertiveness, it's easy to think about being confident in a way that it's almost rude, which isn't the case. It's about, stating what you want and what you need, but in a clear way. Um, so I think there is to make it brief, I think there is both a personal connection for me, because I've always tried. I remember some years ago I was trying to understand how I could have been more assertive, and I read books and I watched video, and I was trying to understand also what that meant. But then from the other side, it's also about, okay, what about everyone else? How can we make sure that women can be more assertive, and what are the skills that they need, but also what are the things that they need to remember? Because for me, and then I will ask you as well, for me, one of the things that I noticed was that I became more assertive once I started to remember, how much I have accomplished in life. And I wonder, is that something that you have experienced as well?
No, I definitely agree. I think there is such power when you realize that your voice is valued and your voice is heard and that people respect you. I think that's a huge component to the development of assertiveness, at least from what I've seen. So, like with my nonprofit, what we do is a lot about giving women, particularly young women, these experiences of having a seat at the table, having a voice in these conversations of equity, particularly for women in STEM, in my case, because there is such it's so empowering when you realize that you are in a space where others around you care about what you have to say. And so that I think is another piece of assertiveness, in the sense that yes, to some extent you have to know those strategies of how to convey your opinions clearly and effectively, but you also need to make sure you're in an environment where those opinions will actually be valued and heard. And so sometimes part of assertiveness, I feel like, is choosing those, it is recognizing when you're in a situation that is supportive to your growth, and then also recognizing when you're in a situation that's not, and trying to figure out the ways to bring either your insight into this area so that it does become supportive to your growth, or leaving that toxic situation altogether, and finding a new place where your voice is heard. So in that sense, I feel like assertiveness is both, it's cultivated from within, from having that experience of knowing what it means to be assertive and what it means to be authentic to yourself, and fighting for what you need. But at the same time, it also comes from seeking out those places and those people and those communities that will support you as you go through that journey of figuring out what being assertive and fighting for your needs means to you. Linda, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually really like what you said about like finding the right places, because I think it's so important to kind of come to the conclusion that even if we master the skill of assertive communication, which means that we are able to clearly communicate, directly communicate what we want, what we feel, it still doesn't mean that it's going to bring the result that we expect, right? There is always the variable. There is always someone on the other hand, on the other end, receiving the message from us. And assertive communication doesn't mean that we get what we want. Assertive communication can also mean that we get a compromise because we are more clearly communicating what we want, but it can also mean that we come to the conclusion, well, this is not the space, where I'm ever going to be heard, because I did communicate my needs, my wants, but it is not being heard anyway, right? So I really like your point. You need to find the crowd. You need to find the person who is also receptive to hearing what you're actually saying. An assertive way of communication can help you achieve things, but there is always the other receiving end as well.
I was thinking about some conversations that I had. I delivered a workshop last week, and there were women of different ages. And it was clear, and I agree with what you both mentioned about finding the spaces where your voice is heard. I think that there is an added layer to that, which is making sure that you know that your voice matters, even if it's not heard in some spaces.
Hmm.
Because sometimes the space, like say like the workspace, you might not be able to change it. Like not everyone has the privilege of changing their the organization they work with, or the company, or the team, or the leader they work with. But you still have to retain the conviction that your voice matters, even if this group of people or this team or this person don't think so. And I love that there is a I think that I watch in a TV series, which was about not just being assertive yourself, but also having people, some kind of squad around you, whether it's at work or whether it's outside of work, but someone who helps you to reinforce what you're saying and what you are communicating. Because it's not necessarily just about the needs, but it's also about the ideas or the thoughts or the disagreeing on some choices. um, and I saw Andrew sharing this question, but I was going to ask you as well. What do you think assertiveness is? Because I think that there is a lot of confusion between being assertive, being too aggressive, being confident as well, because I don't think they are all of the same things. What do you think? How would you
I
define
agree.
assertiveness?
Linda, do you want to take it?
Yeah, so, as I mentioned before, for me, it's the clear, direct communication, communication with confidence, communication of your wants, needs. And I think, that's probably the one of the challenges of assertive communication, right? Because also given different cultures we coming from, everybody, sometimes assertive communication could mean to some people that it is borderlining aggressive, right? That simply on the perception of the person, again, cultural background can play a huge role, or simply also how the person is, because maybe they're not then getting whatever it is that they want, and then that's why they think you might be aggressive. So there is, of course, a thin line for some people where it is assertive communication, where it is aggressive. But at the same time, we who use assertive communication have to be also clear on that, with a certain way of communicating, there is always coming some kind of reaction, and we have to be ready for it. It can be just an expectation that now I assertively communicate something, and everything's going to happen as I imagined in my head. That's not how it works in a real life, right? uh, so we also have to be a bit mindful about what the outcome is going to be, and when we actually choose to use assertive way of communication, because again, we might choose to utilize it at one situation, and in another situation it might be a different style that works better and will get us better results. So this very much depends on where we are at. What about you, Ainsley?
I completely agree. And if I could add to that, I think another piece of it is the way that society has characterized women's assertiveness. Because a lot of times, I'm sure you all have heard this, women who are confident and fight for what they want are often labeled as aggressive or bossy or difficult. And so part of assertiveness, I feel like we recognize that what we're doing is just advocating for ourselves, but the stigmas and assumptions that society has placed on the behavior of women oftentimes means that assertiveness to us is seen as aggression by others. And so I think part of the work also that we have to do collectively is show that assertiveness does not matter your gender, does not matter your identity. In assertiveness itself is about recognizing your needs and advocating for them, and maybe not always being told yes or having people agree with you, but still having that courage and that confidence to fight for what you need. And so when it comes to the difference between aggression and assertiveness, then I think it really does come down to the way that it is interpreted, kind of like what you were saying, Linda, about that reaction that you get. Because I've heard so many stories of women who, who have experienced like sexual harassment or something, and people in their workplace either not taking them seriously or blackballing them, or just not giving them the respect that they deserve for the experiences they've been through. And so I think that a lot of what we need to do is not just teach women how to demonstrate these skills of assertiveness and self advocacy, but also we need to change the system that we live in that doesn't allow for assertiveness to be something that women can do. Like changing the system itself to show to give women this, or rather to not demonize the idea of a woman recognizing that she has a need and fighting for her ability to meet that need. Which again, this is something that I think about every day with the work that I do, and it's definitely a daunting task. I think this idea of how do we change the system itself, but I feel like having conversations like these is definitely a great place to start, because breaking down this stigma starts with acknowledging that stigmas exist and sharing our different perspectives on it. And so I was particularly curious, seeing as we all are from very different cultures and very different situations societally, if there was like something particularly that you think has really shaped you, like in the society that you live in the community that you're a part of, that kind of sticks out to you as something that's shaped your perception of what assertiveness is.
Interesting question. So for me, it has been a series of, so I am, to give you context, my parents were born in Congo, one culture. I was born in Italy, a different culture. And then now I live in London in the UK, again, another completely different culture. And there are different elements that all of these cultures have given me and that have affected the way I thought about being assertive. So, for instance, in many African cultures, or maybe I should just speak for the Congolese one, but for the Congolese one, a lot of the time, the relationship, for instance, between the older and the younger people, it's about the older one, he's right? And then the younger one has to listen. And that means that you hardly practice your assertiveness muscles because you just have to accept that the older person is right. So I just have to follow and I just have to listen. And then in Italy, again, it was a different, like this, the experience in Italy was again different. And that's primarily due of to my heritage background. So I was one of the two black girls at the time, black child, in the town I was born in. and the other one was my sister. So there wasn't diversity per se or anything. But and this also connects to what you mentioned before around the word bossy. So for us, nobody ever told us specifically, but for us, it was important that we were perceived as non-aggressive, as non. We didn't have to. I don't want to scare people, but yeah, like seem aggressive. So that was another element that I, in a way, like growing up, I personally added to my idea of assertiveness. So when I grew up and I started to look more into what I wanted, and also in a very practical way, also who I was and what were my needs and how to articulate them, then I started to find ways to being assertive without being someone else, if that makes sense. Like I'm still myself, but I know how to say what I want, what I need, what I think. And I also know how to discern when it's relevant for me to do that and when it's not, because it's not helpful for the situation. Um, but I would say that another way that has shaped the way I see assertiveness is reflecting all the other women, especially in the entrepreneur space, who I could look up to, and just see how the way they were communicating, but also little things. For instance, the way we speak and the way we write, and how many sorry we say, or how many times we, rather than saying something like, this is what I believe, this is what my experience is, we say, oh, I think that maybe it is, probably, and we just doubt ourselves because we are always doubted. And then we just start to do that as well. And this is a small thing that I started to notice whenever I speak and whenever I write, but also a silly thing when I go to restaurants or coffee place. Before it was, can I have a cup of tea? And now it's, I'll take the oat caramel latte, because we don't need permission, right? And I think that being assertive also is connected to these little things as well as the bigger reflections that we can make.
I love that.
Hmm.
Go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, I think Beatrice, I like that you give also these small examples, right, of us being in a restaurant or just a coffee store or somewhere like that, because if someone actually, is thinking, oh, maybe I need to develop this skill, this is something I need to work on, this is where you start. Because I'm definitely telling you, please don't go and march into your boss's office and make huge demands as your first act of trying assertive behavior. It's probably not a good idea. The result is very unsure, and it might kind of take you from ever trying it again. So try first, yeah, in a coffee store, or try maybe, if you bought a bad product and you need to replace it, try with a customer service, right? Try to kind of stand up for getting a replacement product or getting your money back. And that's where you're kind of building up your confidence, but also confidence in your skills in assertive communication. So I love that you brought it up, because that's how we learn. Let's start with baby steps, right? And then bring it to the office, for instance, to the work environment where we want to get a raise, where we want to work on better projects, where we want to address how people speak to us, right? We can then apply it on these situations, but let's start small, because that's let's get some confidence.
Yeah, this make me think about one thing, Linda, and then I will pass the mic to Ainsley because I really want to hear from
Hmm.
your experience as well, how much the different cultures or environments has shaped the way you see being assertive. But just quickly, Linda, this made me think about one thing that I will do before that I don't do anymore, which is, when you go to a restaurant and you order something and maybe they get it wrong, or maybe they
Hmm.
forget to add something, and before, and for so many people, so many women in particular, I think it's like this. Before it was like, oh, it's okay, I will just have it, I will just eat it,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
sounds like polite and it's fine. And now I don't have to be aggressive in the way I say that, but now I say, actually, there is something missing from my order. And it's so interesting to realize how, like it's not the end of the world. It's,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
but Ainsley, what about you?
Well, first off, I wanted to quickly highlight something that you said, Beatrice, that I really, really liked, which was I wrote this down because it's a very good quote. We doubt ourselves because we are always doubted. I love that because, well, the sentiment itself I despise, but I love the way that you characterize that because it's so true. It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. If we're surrounded by people who constantly make us, like, who constantly like doubt us, then they're gonna sort of transfer those same mindsets to us. And so then we will start to doubt ourselves because nobody else around us supports our views either. And so that also kind of ties into what I think when I think about my own culture and how it's shaped me. So as a college student in particular, um, there's a lot of feeling that pressure to kind of prove yourself. And as a pre-med, especially every day, I think, like where am I in kind of the pecking order of potential Harvard med school applicants? So there's a lot of this sense of like comparing yourself and trying not to and trying to balance, asserting your dreams and fighting for the future that you want, while also finding places where you can again have the resources and have the support to do that. And so one of the things that I definitely have seen being a young woman growing up is that having champions has really been powerful. And so in spaces where I haven't felt like I've had a champion, or where I felt like the people who were my champions did not, and I did air quotes to those who can't see me visually, where I had like people who were supposed to be champions but didn't actually champion me in the way that I wanted to, that definitely did really impact my comfort level with advocating for myself and my needs, because I felt like there have definitely been times where I feel like, what's the point in even trying to fight it? Like, they're not going to listen to me, so what's the point in even trying to communicate what I want? Conversely, finding those people, especially here at college, who do listen to me and do care about what I want has really helped to cultivate my confidence and my courage. And I think it just, especially here in the United States, I think there's a lot of, we're a very individualistic culture, and that you often are expected to kind of fight for yourself. And like, there's kind of this sense of, if you're going to succeed, then it's at the cost of others' success. But as we've been talking about today, I don't think that's true at all. I think that finding, the network of support, finding those champions, finding those people like all of us who have gone through these experiences, and building off each other in order to emerge stronger together, is really how we're going to be able to turn the tide and showcase more, and show that assertiveness is not something that is a detriment to like assertiveness is not something that I don't know, what am I trying to say here? Like, collective power. Finish my sentence for me.
Maybe it's connected to what we were saying before around how you change the, in a way, the culture and the society, right?
Mhm.
So how you make sure that it's not just the individuals, right, who know how to be assertive, but it's also how assertiveness is being perceived, and how that it's also something that needs to be changed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a systemic change, right? That we actually make assertive behavior normal also for women, not just men, but it's, it's the new black. It's like everybody can do it, and it's perceived as part of us and not something, that's going to be labeled or mislabeled rather by those who are, surprised by by that, or not ready for it, not ready to receive it. So it's a systemic change, I believe. To some extent, it's also generational change, cultural change. There are a lot of things that need to fit together until, I think it's accepted as as normal for women.
Yeah. And what do you think? And this is a question for both of you. And I have an idea, but I'm not sure. But what do you think it will take to normalize in a way women being assertive? Because from my experience, what I've seen is that pop culture does a lot into shaping the culture in general. So the more we see assertive women in movies, in books, in television, in whatever we consume, the more it can be normalized in a way. And obviously, this goes hand in hand with us being able to be more assertive and learning the skills, and more women learning the skills. But I wonder, in your opinion, what do you think it will take to change the way assertiveness in women is being perceived?
I love that question. And oh,
So I
you can go ahead.
sorry, go
Thanks.
Ainsley.
I love that question, first of all. I think it's something that we all need to be talking about a lot more. And I completely agree about visibility as being a key factor. Seeing women role models, women who are achieving things and being leaders and blazing trails is absolutely crucial. Um, so that's definitely a part of it. I think also it's just at every step of the way, recognizing the message that we're sending to women in society, even at a young age. There's some fascinating research that's come out here in the United States by an organization called Ruling Our Experiences. Um, awesome organization. The women there are just fantastic. So dedicated to this work. But some of their research has shown that even as young as like middle school, girls are already starting to doubt themselves. And, 55% of girls don't want to be leaders because they're afraid of being labeled bossy, things like that. Yeah. And
Wow.
then 57%, I know these statistics by heart because they're just fascinating to me. 57% of girls don't believe that they're smart enough for their dream career. And it's just, the thing that I always think about that is, who is telling them what smart enough means? Like, who's telling them what good enough is? What in society is giving the impression that there is a standard that they're not meeting? And so I feel like a huge part of changing the way that we view assertiveness is recognizing the language that we're using when we're talking to young women as they're growing up and learning how to be these assertive leaders. Even something as simple as, um, oh, you're so pretty versus, oh, you're so smart. Like, those simple comments really kind of shape what a girl sees as being value. Like what what parts of her are more valued than others. And so I think a lot of it is just being very conscious of what language we're using when we're talking to each other, and how we are describing and reacting to shows of assertiveness, in a way that celebrates it and validates it, rather than um, diminishing it or demonizing it. So I think that's a huge part. What are your thoughts, Linda?
Yeah, I think, we just need more role models. And sometimes it's not even like creating role models. I think, especially today, there are already quite plenty in many areas, but they're just not that visible. So, I think their stories need to be heard by, I mean, my generation, older generation, younger generation, by everybody, right? And then it's, of course, about creating the new role models as well. Because if you see it, you can do it, right? And I know it's easily said, right? There always has to be the pioneer who's gonna take the hard path, but that's something we definitely need, because I mean, look at leadership positions, right? I think we really got better at promoting women into some managerial roles, but if you look at the kind of the high management, that's still a sad story, if you ask me, in many companies and huge organizations around the world. And we just need more women there, but that also again means that we also need to create conditions where, where we are supportive of it and where we give them the opportunities. And that means allies, and that means allies not only among women but also among men, because men can be very big supporters as well, and we definitely need their voices as well there. So it's not, one against the other. It's really about creating the better version of what we have today, which means being inclusive of
I love
of
that so much.
everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
More people need to hear that message. Can we just brain
Yeah.
teleport that into every single person's brain? But seriously though, yeah, I completely agree. And I think that kind of leads into a great sort of conclusion question, being that, we've just spent about 30 minutes talking about assertiveness, but talking about something is very different than creating change from it. And so I'd just be curious for each of y'all, what is something that you hope that people listening today, hey audience, what do you hope that they can take away from this conversation?
Well, connecting to what Linda said, and also connected to the work that I do, one of the things I want people to get out of this conversation is to be visible and share their stories. So making sure that they are visible for themselves, but also visible for others. Because one of the things that we often miss is how many people are looking at us when we move into the world, right? So, how many people can learn from us? And sometimes it feels like nobody's watching and nobody's listening, and the phrase that you say, the way you are assertive in a certain way, even in the workplace, won't have an impact on many people or on anyone for that matter. But I'm 100% sure that every action that we make, somebody's watching, somebody's learning. So whether it's one person, 10 people, a million people, it doesn't matter, because that's the ripple effect, right? That's somebody did it with us in a way, whether it was through a book, through an interview, through a speech. We saw it from somebody and we started working on it, and now we are having this conversation and we are making sure that someone else is also reflecting on it. So the way I see it, if it's like a domino effect. We do it, and then they will think about it, and then that will be more assertive, and someone else is gonna see them, and that will be more assertive as well. And it might take a longer period of time, but we'll get there. So definitely from my side, actually two advice: one, to share more of their stories, to be make sure that they're more visible, and then to start changing the language on an everyday basis.
I love that.
Linda?
I think for me, one would be find allies, um, who will help you every day. And the second one, related directly to assertive behavior, is start small and try it out on very day-to-day situations, as we talked about earlier, and keep keep learning how to use the skill. Keep trying, don't give up, and one day, you will be very skilled master of assertive communication. Ainsley.
I would say just being conscious of the language that you're using, um, being more aware of the messages that not only that you're sending to others, but also that you're sending to yourself. Because I think there's a lot of power in the words that we use and the thoughts that we share with ourselves and out loud. And so this is something that I've been really working on myself, avoiding that negative self-talk when I make a mistake, allowing myself opportunities to learn rather than just seeing failures as oh, I didn't do good enough. I think a lot of the cultivation of assertiveness is the mindset that we bring to it. And so whether that's being surrounded by people who give us those supportive messages through the language that they convey their ideas with, or through the language that we ourselves use towards ourselves, I think all of those come together to aid us in the development of assertiveness. So just being aware of the words that you're saying to yourself and to others, and the people that you're surrounding yourself with, kind of like what you were saying, Linda, about allies, just recognizing the power that words have, both yours and others, and making sure that the words that you're surrounding yourself with are ones that are supportive of your growth and supportive of your leadership trajectory, rather than words that dissuade you from fighting for yourself, or words that convey the impression that you're not good enough, or that you should be doing more, that being assertive is not the kind of characteristic that people are looking for in you. So yeah, I think that's really kind of my main piece of advice, just being aware of the language that you're surrounding yourself with and the language that you're conveying to others.
Thank you. I think we have some great takeaways here.
This was such a great conversation. I'm so glad to meet you both. Thank you both so much.
Thank you so much, Ainsley. Thank you, Linda.
Women Talking About Learning isn't just produced by me. There's a team of us here, and we love this episode. We really didn't want the conversation to end and were totally engrossed with what our guest was saying. We're going to go back and listen to it again. We've done so 3 times already, and we know we're going to come back to it over and over again, and we hope you do too. We don't choose the topics that are discussed. It comes down to you, the audience and the guests. If you want to hear more, please do let us know. Tell us what really matters to you and the things you want to hear about. Linda, Ainsley and Beatrice were phenomenal, and a massive thanks to them for talking about this subject, also for their time and such brilliant recording. We know you'll want to connect with them afterwards, and their details are in the show notes, along with the usual information about how to connect with us here at Women Talking About Learning. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, and next time we're talking about event management. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.